Okay, so through this video tutorial, what we are trying to do is we are going to discuss a software engineering final paper, actually the 2014 final paper with you. So the whole idea is to give you an idea like how to approach a question, especially the three questions based on the practical scenarios. So if you go to the very first question, this is based on the knowledge of use case diagrams and use case scenarios. So here actually they have given a practical scenario about a games lab software. So what we are trying to do is we have to go through the scenario and then we will try to come up with the use case diagram and also the small questions they have asked for. So here now based on this games lab software scenario, they have asked a question: when analyzing the requirements of software system, name the types of common errors you find. This is actually kind of some theoretical knowledge you need to have. There are several main three errors you can find out: ambiguous, incomplete, and inconsistent. So these are the main three types of requirement errors you can find out. And also it asks you to briefly describe an error in the requirements for the games lab software. So if you go through the scenario, actually you'll find out somewhere in the second paragraph it says a game master should have a valid user account, but then again it doesn't clearly explain why he needs this particular valid user account for. So there we can identify an error, an incomplete requirement error, and then you can explain it on your own words. So these are few small questions on the theoretical aspects, and then the next major part is we have to come up with the use case diagram for the games lab system. So here now if you go through the scenario, this first paragraph pretty much talks about or try to give you an overall idea about the games lab system. So the main important thing is identifying actors who are going to trigger the main functionalities of the system. So here if you talk about the actors, they have given some actors like game creator, game master, administrator, researcher, and sometimes you might find other actors while you are going through the scenario. So here it says game creator creates a game. So one of the main functionality of a game creator is creating a game. And if you come to game master, he is the person who's monitoring and running a game. So this could take as one main feature of him. And then also he controls the non-player characters. And it says the game master should have a valid user account. So administrator is responsible for the server and user account management. Players connect to the game with mobile devices, and researchers are using the statistical data. So here actually researcher is also an actor for the given games lab software system. So likewise you can get an overall idea through the first paragraph about this system. And then if you go to the second paragraph, actually this whole paragraph talks about the game creator. So through this let's try to identify what are the main functionalities he is going to trigger. So here it says the game creator can create a game. So as we identified earlier also, this is one of the main functions. So it can be done in two different ways. Either he can use a game editor tool or plain text editor. And now if you think about in the perspective of use case diagrams, you can show this. Actually there are two ways the game creator can create a game. So you can use use case generalization in order to show this. So also here it says before submitting a completed game, the game creator must perform a test run. So if you take submitting a completed game, that's one use case he is gonna have, and before doing that he must always perform a test run. So in here, in a situation like this, you can use include relationship. Then game creator can assign game masters to a game. That's one of the main functions of him. And when assigning a game master to a game, if the game master does not have a valid user account, the administrator should create a user account for him. So in this situation, we can add an extend use case to the game creator requesting to create a valid user account for the game master. Now this gives an idea about the game creator and his functionalities. So if we show this in a use case diagram, this is how we have to indicate it. So game creator can create a game. Since there are two ways, we discuss it through use case generalization, and before submitting a game he has to perform a test run. So this can be shown using an include relationship, and also when assigning a game, if in case game master doesn't have valid account, game creator can request to create a user account. So likewise, try to develop this diagram stage by stage. If you go to the next one, it talks about the game master. So the game master can start the game, or else he can join the game if the game is already started. So here also, since there's an extension point you can clearly identify, you can use an extend relationship to join the two use cases. And also it says the game master has the right to control the non-player characters. So in controlling non-player characters, the game master has to select the NPC and the actions from a given list. So he needs to select the NPC, and also he needs to select the actions from a given list. This is when we are talking about the game master. So if you go to the diagram here, game master can start a game and join a game with this extend or extension point, and then he can control the NPC, and he has to do two main important things: select NPC and select actions, which we can indicate using include relationship. Now if you go further down, a player has to create a character. So again, player is another actor in the given software system. So player can create a character. When creating a character, he has to fill the required information. That's one important thing. And after submitting the required information, the player is asked to enter a username for the new character. So if the username is already in use, the player is asked to choose a new username. So there's kind of a validation is going on, and also a password verification is also going on. So once all this is happened, the player can join the game. So these are the main functionalities we can identify through the scenario, and if we indicate in the diagram, so you can say player has to create a character. So creating a character includes filling required information, validating username, and finally validating a password. So once all these are over, player can join the game. So you can indicate it in the diagram in this manner. So apart from that, in the earlier, if you can remember, we said there are two other characters in the system. One is a researcher and the other one is an administrator. So administrator is responsible for server and user account management, and researcher is responsible for using the statistical data. So now you can complete your diagram by including researcher and admin, and finally don't forget to include the boundary with the name of the system. So this is the approach you have to follow when it comes to draw a use case diagram with a given real-time scenario. So this is one of the major parts of the question. And also there's another part you have to complete. They're asking you to write a use case scenario for creating a character in Games Lab system. That means if you go to the diagram, it's one of the main functions of the player where he's going to create a character. So now you can see, by looking at the diagram, you can write step-by-step scenario to come up with the create character use case scenario. So here few things are really important. First of all, you have to give the name and summary, and also the actors and preconditions if there are any. So at least you need to have some of these things included when you are writing the use case scenario. So the name is creating a character, and there's a small summary given. Actor is the player of the game, and there's a precondition: the creator of the game has created a game and submitted it into the system. Then only the player can create a character. Now you can go to the important thing of use case scenarios: main success scenario and extensions. So now here it starts saying the player connects to the game's website, and then the player chooses create character option. Then you can say the player selects the game to which he or she wants to create a character for. Then the player fills in the needed information. So here there's an extension point. If in case some of the filled in information is not acceptable, the player is asked to correct false information. So likewise, for each and every step you need to identify whether there are any extensions. If you go to fifth step, the player enters a username, and then the username could be already in use, so player has to enter a new username. Likewise, there are extensions for step number 4, 5 and 6. So this is the normal scenario you have to follow when you are writing a use case scenario. And also, rather than writing like this, you can say, since create character player is having 3 includes, at the relevant point in the scenario you can say include, then you can include the correct use case. So if, as an example, if I say field required information, I can indicate it like this. So this means you need to write another use case scenario for this field required information use case. Like this also you can indicate in the use case scenario. So either way is correct. So normally this is how you need to approach the question, which is based on use case diagrams and scenarios.